During GTA 5 missions, we notice that many things are destroyed or changed, but most people never stop to see how all these locations look during or after the missions where everything is wrecked. For example, Martin Madrazo's mistress's house, the same one linked to Ortega's trailer, and several other eerie locations that are altered or sometimes left untouched throughout the game. In this video, I'm going to show you 23 location changes that happen in GTA 5 which you most likely didn't notice. Hit subscribe and let's get started. The first location is in the mission Repossession. The destruction of this spot is somewhat optional. If you don't destroy it, it will remain intact during the game, but almost 99% of players end up blowing it up during the shootout against the Vagos. You have the option to shoot a tank sitting on top of a construction area. When you shoot it, the location is completely destroyed, left in ruins. Even after the mission or completing 100% of the game, it's never repaired, unlike some of the other places we'll discuss later. The next location to undergo changes is Simeons Dealership. Before the mission complications, it's in perfect condition, though it's not yet accessible. After Franklin, during complications, crashes the car into it and causes a scene, the shop enters a repair phase with a wooden board covering the shattered window. Later, after the mission Mr. Phillip, when Trevor takes over, the storefront is fully restored back to its pristine condition. You can see there's a clear passage of time in between. A particularly interesting detail: during the period when it's under repair with the wooden planks, the dealership becomes accessible and a random event with Simeon can occur. This random event is available specifically during the mission's Friend Request and the Jewel Store job. When you enter, aside from the random encounter, you can also go into Simeon's office. Here's a subtle detail that 99% of players miss. The Employee of the Month plaque that Franklin receives during repossession gets overwritten. Simeon places his photo over it. If you inspect closely, you'll notice the original plaque wasn't replaced. It was literally rewritten. You can see faint traces of Franklin Clinton's name erased underneath Simeon's. The guy didn't even bother fully replacing it. Classic Simeon. A bit further along, we have perhaps the most iconic destruction in the game: the house of Martin Madrazo's mistress during the mission Marriage Counseling, where Michael mistakenly believes it's the tennis coach's house. After the mission, the house appears completely destroyed with no signs of reconstruction or activity. In fact, you can explore the ruins after the mission. Once you receive the money from the jewelry store heist used to pay off Martin Madrazo, you'll get a message from Lester and a call from Martin confirming the payment. If you visit Martin's house in Vinewood after this, you'll notice it under reconstruction with scaffolding, tools, and a partially restored facade. After the planned heist, the house is shown fully rebuilt with no signs of construction left. Regarding the jewelry store we robbed during the game to pay off Martin Madrazo after the heist during the mission, you can revisit the location and find it intact, with the glass repaired and the interior restored. However, after completing the heist, the store remains closed for renovations. There's a sign outside indicating it's closed for remodeling, but oddly enough, it never reopens. Even after achieving 100% completion, the store remains permanently inaccessible. After the jewelry heist, we move to the mission Mr. Phillips, where Trevor pushes Ortega's trailer into the river. The trailer stays in the river, regardless of whether you kill Ortega or not, until the mission Hood Safari. During this time, the original location of the trailer remains empty. Once the mission is completed, the trailer reappears at its original spot, fully repaired but seemingly abandoned. This creates a bit of a narrative inconsistency because even if Ortega survives initially, he is canonically killed in later events. This raises the question of who fixed the trailer and why. Moving on a bit, in the mission The Trevor Phillips Industries, we see Trevor's house, already a mess, get completely trashed by the bikers seeking revenge for Johnny Klebitz. There's a theory floating around that it was actually Ron who made the mess, but that's just speculation. Trevor's house only gets cleaned up after Patricia Madrazo arrives following her kidnapping in the mission Caida Libre. The house becomes spotless and well organized. However, once Patricia leaves during the mission Monkey Business, the house quickly reverts to its previous chaotic state, complete with cockroaches, garbage, and filth everywhere. A total disaster. Now let's talk about the ONeal brothers' ranch. In the mission Crystal Maze, you completely destroy their house. If you visit the ranch beforehand, you'll see it fully intact, but after the explosion, the house remains perpetually on fire if you stick around. After completing at least one mission following Crystal Maze, the fire will finally stop, but the house remains completely destroyed and is never rebuilt for the rest of the game, even though some of the brothers survive and appear later. Next up is the Lost MC Camp. In the mission Friends Reunited, various caravans at the Lost campsite are blown up by Trevor using sticky bombs, leaving only their scorched foundations behind. Some caravans are partially destroyed, while others are left completely wrecked. One particular trailer is destroyed in the mission Mr. Phillips, ending up entirely demolished. None of these trailers are ever repaired, regardless of your progress in the story. Now, back to Los Santos after the mission. Friends reunited. Significant changes occurred to Floyd's apartment in 2 phases. I'll focus on the first phase here. Initially, Floyd's apartment is spotless, but after friends reunited and scouting the port, the apartment becomes increasingly dirty, with stains everywhere from Floyd's messy workday. The couch is filthy. Deborah's picture is broken and discarded, replaced by Trevor's makeshift planning board for the Merriweather heist. Additionally, various notes and other items are scattered around, leaving the apartment in disarray. Even Mr. Raspberry Jam, the stuffed teddy bear, suffers. At first he's pristine, but after a few missions he's wearing lingerie, missing an eye, and torn to shreds. The second change to Floyd's apartment happens after the mission By the Book. The torture tools used by Trevor, like pliers, teeth, and other disturbing items, are left on Floyd's table, turning it into what looks like a crime scene. Moving away from Floyd's place to Michael's house, after the mission Did Somebody Say Yoga?, Michael's house is pristine. However, after his family leaves, it gradually becomes a mess until the mission Reuniting the Family. While Michael's family is away, the house is abandoned by the maid as well, leading to piles of whiskey bottles, cigarettes, pizza boxes, dirty dishes, and scattered paintings everywhere. After the mission Reuniting the Family waits, when everyone moves back in, the maid returns too, and the house is once again spotless. Now let's talk about Franklin's houses. His old house, which he shared with Aunt Denise, can be accessed using cheats or mods. If you manage to get inside, you'll see Franklin's room completely empty since he has moved out. After the mission Hotel Assassination, when he gets his new house, it initially has moving boxes scattered everywhere, reflecting the moving process. As you progress through missions, the boxes gradually disappear, and the closets and shelves fill up, showing that Franklin has fully settled into his new home. In Devin Weston's missions, we also see some changes. Near the location where the stolen cars are stored, either at what looks like a scrapyard or an abandoned car wash, you can see the vehicles with covers over them. After the mission I Fought the Law, 2 covered vehicles are visible there. Following the mission Eye in the Sky, the Z-Type appears under a cover, and after the mission Deep Inside, a total of 4 covered cars are stored at the location. In the theft of the 5th car, which is the mission Pac-Man, all the vehicles will be removed because they have now been delivered to Devin Weston, leaving the location completely cleared out. In the mission Caída Libre, where we take down the plane carrying Martin Madrazo's cousin and evidence, the wreckage is completely removed afterward. It's implied that Martin's team might have cleaned up the site to eliminate any proof, though it could also have been taken care of by the police or the FIB. It feels more likely to be Martin's team since there are no yellow police tapes or official markings around the area. The crash site itself, where the plane went down, remains the same with visible ground damage and destruction. However, after some time, the wreckage and any bodies at the site completely disappear, leaving just the ruined terrain. Now moving on to the Paleto Bay heist, there are 2 notable changes to the map. The first is optional, the gas station to the left of the heist, right next to the bank. If you decide to shoot at it during the heist, the gas station will explode and remain destroyed for the rest of the game with no repairs ever made. However, if you don't destroy it during the heist, it will stay intact throughout the entire game. The second change involves the motel across the street from the bank. During the heist, a helicopter is shot down and it crashes into the motel, damaging various parts of it and scattering debris everywhere, even landing in the pool. This destruction is scripted, meaning you have to bring the helicopter down for the mission to progress. The motel, like the gas station, is never repaired, which feels odd considering the high visibility of the heist. It would have been more immersive if the police had at least cordoned off the area with yellow tape to make it feel more realistic. Returning to Los Santos in the mission The Third Way, the Floyd and Deborah's apartment become full-blown crime scene. After the chaos that unfolds, Floyd and Deborah's deaths leave their apartment visibly bloodied. However, if you access Floyd's apartment using mods or cheats, you'll notice that the interior remains untouched, with no signs of the crime. Additionally, Mr. Raspberry Jam, Floyd's beloved teddy bear, ends up strapped to the radiator of Trevor's truck. This quirky detail shows that Trevor kept it as a memento of the house and the events that took place there. Now, in the mission Meltdown, while there aren't many obvious changes, there's a subtle detail that's worth noting. During the mission, Michael's house is heavily damaged in the gunfight. However, after the mission, the house is repaired and everything seems back to normal. One interesting addition is the Meltdown movie poster, which appears in the hallway of Michael's house right by the entrance to his bedroom. It's a small but cool detail that reflects the progress of the story. Moving on to the FIB heist, the first noticeable change is Lester's factory. To cover their tracks, the factory is set on fire, leaving it inaccessible afterward. Yellow police tape appears around the entrance, marking it as a crime scene. If you use mods or cheats to get inside, the interior remains untouched, but the exterior has all the markings of an investigation. This raises the question, why is it labeled as a crime scene? Shouldn't it just be treated as an accidental fire? It's a bit confusing in that regard. Now let's talk about another location affected by the FIB heist. The next location is the FIB building itself. After the destruction, regardless of the method you choose, either explosives in the firefighter approach or the helicopter in the rooftop approach, the building is left covered with wooden boards as if under repair. However, the repairs never progress. Even after completing 100% of the game, if you return to this location, you'll still see the boards on the outside as though the building is perpetually being renovated. Using mods to access the interior reveals that everything inside remains destroyed, frozen in the state it was during the heist, with no signs of reconstruction. Next up is the mission The Wrap-Up, where the chaos between Steve Haynes, Michael, and Dave Norton unfold. After the intense shootout, the location is fully restored, much like Michael's house. All textures and damage are repaired. However, if you return to the court center after the mission, you'll find a crashed helicopter sitting in the middle of the area, while NPCs act as though everything is normal. It's a strange oversight, possibly left in by Rockstar because few players return to that spot after the mission. Moving on from main missions to Strangers and Freaks missions, let's look at Pillbox Hill Medical Center. This is the only hospital in the game that can be partially explored. During that Strangers and Freaks mission where you help the elderly couple obsessed with celebrities. During this mission, you chase Aldi Napoli, who eventually runs into the building. During this segment, you can explore parts of the building. However, after the mission ends, the area you entered becomes completely boarded up, and the boards remain permanently as the hospital's supposed repairs are never completed. Another Strangers and Freaks mission involves the final side quest for Josh. In this mission, he asks Trevor to burn down a mansion so he can collect the insurance money. Whether or not you manage to catch Josh afterward, the house will remain forever destroyed, covered in black scorch marks. The damage is permanent and the mansion is never rebuilt. It's crazy to see these details that most of us never noticed. There's so much in GTA 5 that even 11 years late players are still discovering. There are things that people missed entirely, like the details in trailers for GTA 5 before the game launched. And this gets everyone curious about what we'll see in GTA 6. If you want to dive into what I'm talking about, click here to check out a full comparison of trailers, breaking down every difference between what was shown and what was delivered in the final game. That's it for today, folks. See you in the next video. Take care and bye.